Good day everyone, so hope you're all doing really well. My previous video on the Spiral Abyss was a quick 3-minute review using my C6 characters, but in this video I'm going to use my C0, C1 characters on my other account to explain a bit more of the detail and the techniques that you can use to get a bit of success in the Abyss, because this current version is a bit frustrating. It's got a huge DPS check, you've got enemies that take their sweet time winding up, flying around, having shields, and generally I think a lot of people are a bit frustrated. So that's what we'll be discussing today. I've tried my best here on my other account. It's an old account, it's 4 years old, I've done all the events, dailies and so on, so it might be a bit stronger than the average account, or it might be weaker, that's up to you. Certainly the artifacts are nothing crazy, so hopefully there is a bit of relatability. Right, enough said, let's get into the Spiral Abyss. We're going to tackle the second chamber and the third chamber, and then we'll circle back to the first chamber, which I'll explain in just a bit. So, to start off, right here against the big flying Cucosaur, you want Farina. Farina and her pets are really nice, and once you have her you can stand here in the middle, break the one flame, break the second flame, stand again in the center, and as the flying bird then starts coming to you, you'll have him nice and centered here, and you can see I've set up in such a way such that he'll fall precisely when my team's rotation is done, and that means I can now start putting in damage into this enemy. Now for the background footage, I can do this in about 905, 910. Sometimes it depends a bit on the RNG and so on, and if I got the Cinder City buff. But one thing I'm doing very specifically in this case is, as you'll see in a moment, taking my sweet time, because I want to show you that on this second chamber, which is the one a lot of people are complaining about, even if you do need to take a bit more time here on the first half, you'll still have enough time on the second half to beat the Papilla, or this new Natlan enemy. So whilst we are taking our sweet time here with Nouvelette, let's talk a bit about this enemy. So the Papilla is an enemy which a lot of people think you need Natlan characters for, but that's not really the case. So how this boss, which you'll see in just a moment, works is that he gains pretty much immunity to all damage, and then you've got the shield right there on top of his head. Now you can see here the combination of constantly swirling, triggering Hyper Bloom is pretty much more than enough to break the shield. So how does that shield work? Well, effectively it's got a hit counter of 72 in the Spiral Abyss and 53 in the Overworld, and every time you deal elemental damage to him, that counter goes down by 1, and if you use a Night Soul aligned attack, in other words a character from Natlan, each hit will then remove 3 from the counter. So it's not that much of an upgrade even if you use Natlan characters. The point is you want a lot of quick elemental application, and the team that you can see here in the background, you can use Xingqiu if you don't have Yelon, works really well. You can use Alhaitham spread with Xingqiu is another popular variant that can work really well, and you'll be able to break the shield, and it's essential that you break the shield because the enemy gains about a 70% resistance or if you don't break it. So you must break it, otherwise you're going to be like me on my main account and you've got a lot of DPS to dish out. Now if you don't have a C6 Raiden, that might be you might kind of end up wasting a lot of time in the Abyss, so that would be my advice. Hyper Bloom is your friend here on the second half. So yeah, that is how you deal with this enemy. There's still a bit of time here on the clock if you messed up on the first half, but it is totally doable and well within the range of different, artifacts and weapons that you might have on your account. Against the Golden Wolf Lord, I've decided that I'll use Kachina. Kachina is a free character that everyone has. I really wasn't trying to be funny. Kachina is at level 69 because I ran out of mats when recording this video, because I was like, okay, I need to build Kachina to do this because I don't have Shilonen, so that's where we're at. But basically, Kachina is going to be your ticket. You've got a window to damage the Golden Wolf Lord. I didn't do a spectacularly good job here in the beginning, but it is whatever. You can take him roughly to about half health, which is what you should go for before he gets into this little special gimmick where you need to break the skulls. And you can see here the trick with Kachina is very simple. You use her drill and then you save all of the Farina pets, the Kuki Shinobu lightning, the the ring, and Nouvelette's charge attacks to break the second half. So that's kind of how I decided to do it, and then by the time Kachina's drill is then back on cooldown, you can take out the last pillar here, which is really, really cool. And then it's the case of dealing damage and taking out the Golden Wolf Lord. You want to try and at least get to about 8:15 at the latest, so when the clock is at 8:15, you don't really want to take any more time, otherwise it's just a team or an artifact issue, because if you take too long, then depending on what you have on the second half, the flying dinosaur can take a bit longer as well. Remember, it's got like a whole wind up animation with increased resistances, and then it flies up and you need to take it down, so there are lots of things that just waste your time here in the Abyss. Alright, so let's go here to Flying Dinosaur. As you can see with the team that I've gotten, it's just basically me saying, hey, I don't need healers. We could have gone for Prototype Amber here on Sucrose, although I wanted to go ham on the damage. This is just one type of team that you can use. I don't think, to be honest, my Yai's artifacts or anything spectacular. I don't even have Nahida's weapon leveled up all the way, so that is a true Kokomi clan scuffed fashion. This is what you get, but you can still skill it out. Yai is very good at avoiding this enemy because his attacks are very telegraphed, and what you can do is always either step outside or like move back. That's what Yai is so good for, that ability to space and attack. So to get the best out of Yai, you basically want to use one tap of her normal attack whilst you're using your E ability, just so you can trigger more Hyper Bloom and then defeat the enemy. It's not really that difficult, and as you can see, I'm just letting things play out. Fantastic, superb aim by myself. Thank you. Give me a medal for that. And then that is pretty much it for this dinosaur. So pretty straightforward. I think the Golden Wolf Lord, especially since you get Kachina, is also pretty straightforward. And then Hyper Bloom, I do think, is going to be the winner on this Abyss floor. Now in my previous video, I said that you could use a Kokomi team with Shilonen. Since I don't have Shilonen, we'll use Sucrose here. And this then brings me to the first half. The reason I didn't talk about the first half is because that was the strategy. I wanted to use a different team for the first half than for the other two chambers. Remember, you don't need to beat the Abyss from top to bottom to get 9 stars. Each chamber in and of itself is effectively just a challenge. In other words, you can beat the Abyss with 3 different teams, one specialized for each chamber, even if you get 2 stars on all of the other chambers. That's kind of the way this works, and that's the strategy I've gone for here. Now, a trick to use a Monohydra team here is basically to try and group up the enemies and multi-hit them. So that's what I did against the 2 lava guys. And against these 2 that love to just be all over, you simply bring them to the edge of the Abyss Ring, as you can see here. And this then makes it a lot easier for you to also see what happens. You can see here the camera itself is not going to be in your face. It sometimes, if you get lucky, it will point a bit more backwards. You can see both enemies, so this increases your field of view, and you want to try and multi-hit them and keep them grouped up, because that Kokomi's AoE, or like that Oceanute Clam, that damage does start picking up. And as you can see, it's not that difficult, given the fact that these characters have a high health pool, and that if you're using Shilonen as well, that you'll get extra healing. It's very easy to survive. It's all just about controlling the enemies, and my best time on that floor is about 8:37, and I've got footage of that as well, so you can there's certainly a bit of leeway for artifacts and weapons and such. Alright, and then here on the final floor, we're of course not going to crit with Raiden, and we're not going to hit both enemies, so that's a big shame on me. But nonetheless, that's still more than enough time to beat the Primogeovishap here with a Hyper Raiden, which is what I'm going for. Naturally, you can also use a couple of other teams. I think that Alhaitham Hyper Bloom team that I mentioned earlier is very useful as well. I think I tried this with Yai and Nahida. It's just, you're just going to run out of time before you get to it, and if you don't have any healing, then you're going to have to play super careful, so that might not be the best team. But regardless, other teams like an Arlecchino team, you could use against the Primogeovishap, Mualani teams, whatever. I mean, if you just look at the first chamber as a special chamber that you need to solve separately from how you need to solve the other chambers, then you can get your 9 stars. You've got 30 days to do so. There is really no rush. Wait for the crit rate, crit damage card. Wait for any other special buffs. Wait for Mavrika to come out, and maybe you're the type of person that wants a Zhongli, that could be useful, or you want a Nouvelette, and you can do what I did, you can even beat the first house with a Nouvelette team also in like 8:35. It's not that difficult. So plenty of options. It's entirely just up to you. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed this bit of a longer video, and thanks for watching.